So if you don't know, we are 1.2, I think it might be 1.3 now, million AmeriCorps member alumni strong. So my intention with this podcast is to reach as many AmeriCorps alumni as I can and just find out, what are you up to? Where are you? And how did your service year impact you? And I wanted to just keep these connections going. All right. Well, welcome back to another and very special AmeriCorps Connections, where we have a really fantastic and unique opportunity to speak to some of the past podcast guests. The AmeriCorps Connections podcast will be a year old officially in January-ish of 2024. I think we have over 30 something episodes, and I'm just so excited that we've been able to do this for a year and that people are still excited. And I know if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, you're going to go back and listen to every single one of these guests that are on here, podcast and understand, or their interview, and to try to understand their journey and learn more about their AmeriCorps year. So if you are listening to this for the first time, my name is Nikki Fiacco, and I'm the brainchild of AmeriCorps Connections. And the purpose for the podcast is really just to connect AmeriCorps alum that are out there, had a service year, and now they're out there doing wild and wacky and wonderful and exciting things. So this is really going to be a dynamic conversation between these wonderful folks who trusted me with their stories, and yeah, so I just want to get started. Um, the first thing, I'm going to just open up the floor and just say, who wants to jump in and kind of reflect on, like, why the heck you jumped on this platform and wanted to share your AmeriCorps year, and what your experience was during the podcast. Oh, come on, guys.
I can jump. Oh, go ahead. Okay, Dan. I can jump in. I mean, I'll be honest. I think one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to jump on the podcast was to support you, Nikki, and also just support work going on for AmeriCorps alumni. I just love seeing any kind of opportunity to provide more resources and access to networking opportunities for AmeriCorps alumni. So I just really was excited to do that, and I always love talking to you. So it's always a rich conversation. And honestly, it's funny because I get, that Spotify Wrapped AmeriCorps, your podcast was on my top 5. So I've loved listening to everybody's stories, and it's been really nice to get to talk to other people about what you're doing, and just meeting and seeing what other AmeriCorps alumni are doing. And it was really nice because shortly after my podcast, I did meet Dana Vizzelli from City Air, who's also in San Antonio with me. And so she's now actively involved in the AmeriCorps alumni chapter in San Antonio with us. So it's been really good. And we even did a service project together in August because she works for City Year. And so some of us alumni hopped on and helped with what she and some of the folks from CIS was doing as well. So just so many wonderful things and has come out of that. And yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for supporting me. I appreciate that. And so you hadn't met Dana prior?
No,
That's
I'm not.
so
No.
crazy. I think you actually said you should interview this woman, Dana. And I was like, I did.
Yeah, and then also I've had a few messages come in from LinkedIn too, or even emails saying you were on that podcast, right? So it was someone from the State Service Commissions, and we were talking about some of the work that we're doing. So it was really nice to be able to also help get the word out about some of the work that we're doing at New Politics. So just lots of great things coming out from the
That's
experience.
awesome. That's so great. And yeah, connecting all those tangential organizations together is super important. We had Chad on the call, Chad Driscoll from America's Service Commissions. Couldn't make it because they're doing a virtual staff retreat planning session. They're always doing something. Thank you, Christina. Who else? Who wants to go?
I can go.
Yay.
I was chatting with a friend of mine whose daughter was graduating high school, and she was considering AmeriCorps, and she was mentioning one or two programs, so she didn't really know a whole lot about the thing, and even the website wasn't super intense about what it was. And so being able to share an experience that what AmeriCorps NCCC was for me and what that could be for other young people, and knowing that there was a gap in having people understand and hear from folks who have already done it and what that means for people's future. And it isn't this like, it's a meaningful and useful step in your journey about figuring out who you are and figuring out who you want to be. So, and I also afterwards I've sent it with my AmeriCorps team, and now it's like it was like a love letter to AmeriCorps Class 12 G2 team, and we all like had a big reunion about it. So it was a really great way to celebrate and reconnect.
That's awesome. And for the folks that are just listening and not watching this on the video on YouTube, that was Dana Benjamin Allen, who was just speaking, and before that was Christina Flores from New Politics. Thank you for that reflection, Dana. And Dana's so awesome. Like, not gonna lie, she kind of sent me a gift that has to do with IPA, and that was amazing. So thank you, Dana. And she also wrote a position description for somebody who's going to help me on the back end of this podcast. So if you need something done, Brittany, I love your reaction. If you want something done, ask a very busy person and a business owner to do it. So thank you, Dana, for the interview, being on this, being on the interview, being on the podcast, and everything that you've done after that. And we were introduced through Amanda McSwine, right?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, and I still need to get her on the podcast. That's for 2024. All right.
I'll help with that.
Yes, I love that. All right, who's next? Who wants to reflect?
I can go.
Yeah.
So I just think that it was great that everything is in one place. All the stories are in one place. Like all podcasts, right? It's like all concentrated because you meet people from AmeriCorps, and then you kind of, you don't, maybe you get their contact information, maybe you don't. But it's nice to have it all in one place, and you get to in the little notes, you get to see what they're up to and things like that, where they work and all that. So I think it's really cool for those reasons too.
Oh, thank you, Libby. And I'm trying to, oh, that was Libby McClayton. I should have written down all of your episode numbers. Sorry, just go through. That was one of the most recent ones. And I'm working on actually having like a landing page. Right now we just have the website, or right now we just have where all the podcasts are hosted on. But hopefully in 2024, I'll have somewhere for folks to go. So if somebody that had been interviewed and been on AmeriCorps Connections has some sort of resource, I'm winking at Dr. Jenna Pugh, that folks might be interested in, that they can go there to download it. Thanks, Libby. Okay, we have Brittany, Trey, and Craig.
I guess since you called me out. Oh,
No, you go.
Well, since you called me out, Nikki, so now that I know what backlinks are, I really appreciate that. I've been learning about SEO the past few months. But I think what I appreciate most about being on the podcast was really reflecting on my service. I served 08 to 10. So it's been 15 years. And so it's been so long. And then to now, after having a big career change in the past 2 years, and to look back at really where it all started with AmeriCorps coming out of college, it was just fantastic to know what I know now, I suppose is the best way to describe it. Because when you're in it, there's like great days, there's really challenging days, and days where you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, and you might not necessarily see the fruits of your labor while you're serving or even after. And then to now reflect this many years after, it's been fantastic to see and to get reconnected with the community, and especially connecting with you, Nikki. You've been so supportive and been such a cheerleader for me and all the work that I'm starting to do. So I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to connect with you. And it all started with you reaching out to me via the AmeriCorps alumni LinkedIn group. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think reflecting on our service year, and I think too, when we reflect on our service year, it's crazy how many folks we stay in contact with and then circle back with. It's like they just become part of your universe. And then when we start to expand, I mean, you run into them in person, Christina and Dana, and you work on virtual projects. It's just so cool. And we just got Addie Lipson just joined us. She's backlit, very mysterious over there. What we're doing, Addie, is just sharing like why you were interested in joining the podcast and your experience. And so I think Craig was going to go after Jenna. So if you want to gather your thoughts, so go for it, Craig, and share where you are with everybody.
All right. My name is Craig Worrell. I'm intentionally unemployed, currently sitting on a porch at 2 a.m. in Koh Phangan, Thailand. My background actually looks a lot like Brittany's when it's light out here with the palm trees and the waves. Lucky SOB I am. But I've been trying to evangelize AmeriCorps and public service since before I did my service here, because I just assumed it was going to be amazing. And I always did informal volunteering myself around my campus back in undergrad. And I want to continue doing that, and I'm still doing that. And my goal always used to be kind of, lower income, lower socioeconomic folks, and trying to introduce them to the idea of public service in AmeriCorps because of the education benefit and obviously personal fulfillment. Because I did see a theme and a trend of generational wealthy people doing service projects and service programs because they could afford to kind of forego a salary. And when I talked to you last time, I was kind of in the inverse situation where I was a career coach at a pretty prestigious public university, and I was trying to convince students instead of going to Goldman Sachs and getting paid $200K a year to maybe consider forgoing that for a little bit, maybe a year or two, and doing some public service and doing some public good. So I've just realized, like, I just want as many people as possible, regardless of background, to know about the option of public service, and hopefully it puts them on a trajectory like it has for me, where I haven't touched the private sector, don't really have any interest. And I think I have a lot of talent and skills that can be used in the public sector. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do after I'm done philandering around the world here,
Yeah.
and head back to local government or something to that tune, because I love the being on the ground work, localized work, and I'll always have a passion for that, and it influenced my education and jobs, and just want to spread that as far and wide as possible. Podcasts are a great way to do it. So thanks for having me.
Well, when you do get back stateside, there's this great program called New Politics. And so if you're interested in getting into the political realm, I highly recommend connecting with Christina Flores and her team for sure.
I like government. I think I'm done with politics after being in DC back in the day, but I I love the work that you're doing. Thanks for sacrificing so I don't have to do it.
Thank you for that, Craig. The interview was fun with you. I think you had just emptied out your apartment and you were like on a tethered Wi-Fi, and it was great
Yeah.
and wonderful. And we had to time the podcast so that we weren't announcing to the world what you were doing until you had made your jump. So again, thank you for trusting me to share your story. All
Absolutely.
right. Yeah. Okay. Who's next? We got Brittany and Trey and Addie.
I can go.
All right.
So gosh, it feels like another lifetime when we chatted, Nikki. I think I'm kind of in Craig's boat a little bit of just like, I am not in Thailand, unfortunately. I'm still chugging away at work, but I think I started to think about volunteerism in a whole different light. And like, because the world has forever changed, and we've always said like, oh, we need to change with it. And I'm like, but we're not. Like, we're still doing the same crap, and we're wondering why volunteers aren't engaging. And I'm like, because they're not feeling connected to us. Like, we don't take the time to like get to know them. Like, we're always about like, oh, this has to be done, and you need to show up and do this at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, that's not meaningful for people.
Mm,
Like, and
mhm.
so I'm really just starting to think about how we communicate as a national organization, and like maybe events aren't the future of volunteering. Like I just don't know that we're doing I don't know that we're doing the world a service of like providing great experiences. And I think we have a long way to go as an organization to get there. Like we're like, I don't know, in my head, 30% of the way there. Like
Mhm.
it's just like it boils down to like, oh, we don't have the budget to do that, or volunteers don't deserve the same things as like our participants. And I'm like, so it's a culture shift. Like we're starting to be like, no, they should receive the same meal as a participant. Or, you know what I mean? Like volunteers
Yeah.
are not like, the option F or whatever. I don't know. Like they just the culture needs to shift about how we treat people and
Mhm.
how we're engaging with people. And I also recently started volunteering again in the education realm. Um, with like a local mentoring organization, and I facilitate sessions on Monday nights with same it there it's like a college prep program, and so these mentors are with these high school students for 3 years starting in their sophomore year, so sophomore, junior, and senior year, and they're low income, and it's giving them access to college. And so it's been interesting, like being back in that realm. I was a mentor a couple years ago, and I took a step back because I was like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired,
Yeah.
I need to like take a step away. And I knew I needed to take a step away, but I think I'm just really starting to think about like my experience there, um,
Mhm.
and like how we're not doing you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like volunteering in and of itself has been and is going through its own sort of um transition. And we were talking about this at the Points of Light concert back in 2017. Points of Light concert. That sounds fun. Points of Light conference. And we were like, do we need to name volunteering something else, right? Like, but then also I feel like we've also tipped over into like, but when are you asking somebody to do something as a volunteer, meaning unpaid, when it's like something that is they get paid for in another part of their life, you know? So that's such an interesting maybe we'll do a series on volunteering and
I mean,
and go in there.
honestly, because it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, like
Yeah.
even college students now, they're like, well, tell me more about like if I volunteer at this event, what am I like? People are asking more like what's in it for me, but not
Yeah.
in a nasty way. Like it's more like, well, if I'm gonna give up my Saturday morning, what is my experience that day
Mhm.
gonna look like? And come on, like if you I don't know. I think
Yeah.
there are some severe missteps in how we're defining volunteering and how we're treating our volunteers.
Yeah, definitely. And Brittany, I think you and I talked back in, I think March, right? Like there were a couple folks on this call. I think Christina's one of them, that were the early adopters. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, Trey, Addie, Jason. Jason Rose is joining us from Idaho, right? Idaho,
Correct. Yeah,
Idaho.
sorry I'm late.
That's okay. We are just going around and reflecting on our experience, on why we wanted to be on the podcast, your experience on the podcast, and then kind of like, I guess, what you're up to or jazzed about now. So, Trey, Addie, do either of you want to go next? And then,
Sure,
Jason, I'll let you collect your thoughts.
sure, I'll go. I think the podcast experience was great. One of the things, the reason I was like, yeah, Nikki, I'm totally in, is because I realized there's so many of us that have stories and um, that are just not being told. We find as we're working in different sectors, different industries, how many folks have actually been through a national service program. And you're like, oh, they're kindred spirits in some way. You can even notice there's almost like a brand that is like, oh, I know what you've done and what you've experienced. We can have a conversation. And there's also even I've even noticed there's even a work ethic. I can't even speak right now. There is a way of seeing and a paradigm that a lot of times we all kind of share, or there's something that's similar in viewing. And I think it's necessary for us to show that we are showing up in a lot of different spaces. Some folks think that we are all still in the nonprofit sector. Some of us are definitely not in the nonprofit sector anymore. Some of us are in politics. Some of us are in politics and government. Some of us are in other spaces. And I thought it was good for us to just continue to share these stories, especially for those future alumni that are coming in. They have an opportunity to say, "Hey, you know what? We're everywhere." Yes,
Mhm.
we are everywhere. And I don't want to sound, that does sound kind of creepy as I say that though, but we are also everywhere. So keep that in mind as folks are also looking and navigating. If the folks that are listening, uh, if you are looking in a particular sector, there's probably an alum somewhere around that you can probably reach out to. So it's just good to get us out there and get some people out there so they can find those connections.
And that's and for those of you that are just listening, that's Trey Deadweiler from Think for Good and the Service Nerd Collection. And that was also one of my missions and passions for this project, is to debunk the idea that because you do a service project or a national a year of service, then you're going to become a teacher, or you're going to be in nonprofit or social work or, whatever. And just, I think during our conversation, Dana, you and I kind of talked about how your experience with NCCC and some of the back end stuff that you had to do, and then working with the Boys and Girls Club, it all kind of laid in this process of like, oh wait, I can be a business owner. Like how, like to be able to connect national service and NCCC, right? Not even Vista, um, which is all behind the scenes, to be able to connect national service, um, to what you're doing now that gives you the courage. In fact, Jason, I think I talk about this on some of my other podcasts, but one of the things that you brought up about your NCCC experience was kind of how you think about like urban structure and how it impacts the environment. And some of that had to do with the starry nights that you had during your experience. Remember things, folks. Like I edit these things. So I listen to the conversations like 16, 17 times. And I've said this before. I usually am just editing out stupid things that I say. Although this one is not going to be edited because I don't have time and I just want to get it out. So if you said something really, really bad, reach out to me. But I'm trying to have you guys talk more than me because I don't have time to edit this. But anyways, yes, to your point, Trey, we're not all in nonprofit, right? And I had a conversation with somebody the other day. I'm like, I want to make money. Like, I want to be able to make money and give back and be comfortable, right? So anyways, I should stop talking. Okay, Addie and then Jason.
I have a quick
Oh,
thing to add to
yes.
what Trey was just saying. So knowing that AmeriCorps members are everywhere, I think something that we could all do better is actually like acknowledging the fact that we were in AmeriCorps. I think the Peace Corps does a good job with this. Like I feel like people slide that into conversation a little bit easier with that they did the Peace Corps. And I don't know that AmeriCorps members do that as much. I was on like a webinar or something earlier this week, and someone mentioned they had served in AmeriCorps, and I like blew up the chat. I was so excited. And it was, I think, one of the first times I've ever heard somebody actually say that as part of their professional background. So it's something that I guess we can all start with this group here and within the podcast too, but starting to beef up that culture that we acknowledge this is something we did. And on LinkedIn, people put like ex Goldman, for example, on there. I don't know if we need to put ex AmeriCorps alum in our headlines, but it's a start.
I love that, like normalizing, part of I'm an AmeriCorps alum, like introducing yourself. I'm Nikki Fiacco. I work for I Do, and I'm also an AmeriCorps alum. And people will be like, what does that mean? Dana has a thought.
Anytime someone interviews with me in any job, and currently, if you are an AmeriCorps alum, you get through all the bull nah. I want to talk to you. And yesterday, I was interviewing a young woman, and she dropped that she was an AmeriCorps alum, but it wasn't on her resume. And I said, we're working together, have no fear. But let's also like chat a hot second about the fact that like being an AmeriCorps isn't like a headline that you hold so dear and that you are excited to share. Because when you put that you are an AmeriCorps alum and you're talking to an AmeriCorps alum, that is shorthand for you are resourceful, you are a badass, you know how to work with people, you know how to bring people together, and you sure as heck know how to get things done. So like absolutely. And so if anyone is listening to this and you haven't really shouted out AmeriCorps, even if it was like 20 years ago, get that back on your resume
Yeah.
for the benefit of all of your future employers.
I like how you added badass on there. I wonder if there's a way to get that into the pledge. I'm an AmeriCorps and member, and I will get things done, and I'm a badass. Like, maybe we can talk to the CEO and see if Michael Smith can, I don't know, update the pledge. Talk to the communications folks. Make AmeriCorps edgy. Okay, Addie, and then Jason.
Hello. Real quick, I came in late. Craig says he's unemployed, but check out Travel Twerps. He's doing a great job on that. Um, double thumbs up from Craig. So question is, why were you excited about the podcast and how to help you reflect on service? I was excited about the podcast because I saw Dana Bazzelli be on a podcast, and I'm full of myself, so I wanted a platform to speak about it. No, I'm I'm kidding. One of the city year core tenants is shoulders of giants, and it took Einstein's quote of "I see far because I stand on the shoulders of giants." And my interest in doing the podcast is if being an AmeriCorps alumni makes me a giant, I want to be one of the biggest giants possible for them to stand on. So, echoing what a lot of people are saying here, I was excited to talk about not only AmeriCorps as a whole, but how it poured into my personal experience and led to where I am today as the head of HR. Um, and I think it's good to feature some of those narratives because I stay engaged with the Milwaukee Corps. And a lot of times during their 18-minute networking, they have all these fields that people want to go into. And, I don't know why I'm surprised that no one ever puts down corporate HR for what they want to go into. But like, I think what being an AmeriCorps does is teaches you that idealism. Like when your HRIS breaks during payroll and everything is messed up, how are you going to steer this ship of 350 people and make sure that everyone gets paid, stays happy, and we don't accidentally break any laws? So some other ways it connects to the work I'm doing right now is very real on the finding other AmeriCorps alumni thing. My recruitment director is from NCCC, and we are both very much like we see the chaos going on. Everyone else is going to talk about it. We're going to be about it. So that's what AmeriCorps teaches you. And I think it's great to focus on like some of these other narratives because like the same cost prohibitions that stop someone from serving a year of service is the same cost prohibitions that like stop someone from sustaining that year and rebounding from it. So sometime like me, I was in a lot of debt my 2 service years, still recovering from it, and that's why I'm not in nonprofits anymore. So it's nice to hear just the cacophony of like what people went through while they're here and how they're turning that into making their little corner of the world a little better.
I love that
That's all I got.
reflection. Yo, that's great. And for those folks who are just listening, that was Addie Lipson. And if you go back to her interview, she actually does the city year cheer. I'm just gonna say it was
It's burned into my memory
it's quite she didn't
up
do
there
the
with 9/11.
she didn't do the exercises, but and I love that reflection of how an AmeriCorps year is stressful and you have to figure things out, and it does totally pour into what you can accomplish now. And I really love something that you said about the financial struggle. So when I was down in South Carolina, we had a members fund, emergency fund. We changed the name of it from emergency of like something else, but the stats showed that those folks who accessed those funds up to $500 had more of a retention rate than the folks that didn't utilize those or need to utilize those funds. So what it showed to us is if those funds weren't available, those members would have had to drop out because the commission was able to pay for those tires, and I had to buy tires like on the spot. My tire blew up on the on the highway, and I just so happened to like veer off into a Mr. Tire. That, like, thank you, universe. But since we were able to pay for those tires, that member was able to continue in service. And what an amazing conversation if we start to have, like, I'm sure we have some AmeriCorps members that have some money that would be willing to contribute to either their state service commissions, AmeriCorps, like emergency fund, or maybe build out a foundation that can support AmeriCorps programs in the region or in the state. So that's awesome. All right, Jason, you're up.
Man, such a good question. Addie, there's a couple things that you said that made me think of so many things. I mean, I'm not in like corporate HR. I work in public transit, but there's like a kind of a corporate feel to it. And I think that like what strikes me is that you can do anything with like an ethic of service, sort of. Like I think there's this like idea of like what is corporate HR, what is working for the government. But I've like run into some people like locally and more broadly that did like NCCC or any AmeriCorps or Peace Corps working in this kind of space, and they still, this is gonna sound dumb, but like they're not as lame as I thought. Like there's like more to it, right? There's more personnel, there's more happening. And I think that's some of what like AmeriCorps brought into the fold is like I did NCCC out of Denver, and at one point we were doing taxes. I'm like, right on, like but we were doing it in a like kind of a together way, and I don't know, there was something about like the intent behind it. So okay, so tying back to the actual question, that's what kind of drew me to the podcast initially, just hearing other people's stories, and listening to like everyone else's experiences, especially after they left their service here and like what happened afterwards. Where are they now? How did it change their trajectory? I get a similar, like sometimes I'll do sessions where I'll talk about career paths, and I was an English major, so I have a similar sort of conversation with people when they're like, oh, you're an English, what do you do with an English major? What do you do with an AmeriCorps service year? Like you can do anything, and so I was curious about where other people kind of landed and hearing other stories. And then I don't know, maybe it was a little bit of ego, I'll be involved. But I was interested in kind of telling my story, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's a great podcast. That's mainly what it is. You do a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's also like, wow, you want to hear my story, sort of thing. So like maybe a little bit of self-promotion, like, oh, I want to tell my story, but also, wait, we're talking about this. There's other people that are talking about this, is recorded. Like we're putting this out there for public consumption, and this isn't limited to to AmeriCorps alums. I love it when people say, oh, hey, so-and-so, I just talked to so-and-so and I sent them over your podcast so they can listen to, because their kid doesn't know what to do next or whatever. And what an amazing resource, because there's really nothing like that out there. And I am so happy that reading isn't like a huge thing anymore, because I mean, I love reading. I do love reading. But I mean, like audio and visual are what people are consuming now. So if you send a blog over to a 20-something-year-old and you're like, "Oh, read about this," they're going to be like, "Where is the TikTok?" Like just, which might be next. Like I just started an Instagram, folks, like baby steps on the promotions. So yeah, I think it's just bringing everybody together, having these conversations and realizing that like we do have something to talk about. So thank you all for those just quick little snippets and reflections on the podcast, on your podcast experience. Now I'd love to just open the floor, if you want to talk about how maybe you've interacted with some folks on the call or folks off the call, maybe some people that have reached out to you because of the podcast, or whatever, like how did being on this AmeriCorps Connections podcast change your life? I mean, we do have 53 followers on YouTube, folks. Like you are stepping to the world of influencer. I know. Settle down, right? You're all going to get a pin, I promise. For the folks that are not watching this on, you're just listening, everybody's cracking up right now. So go to the audio and just watch how everybody's laughing at me. So, yeah, if anybody wants to step up and Dana and yeah, go for it, Addie.
I keep seeing Jenna everywhere. Like I added a lot of the people that I saw on the podcast to LinkedIn, and now Jen and I like had a little networking thing where we talked about some of the stuff that she's doing, some of the stuff I'm doing. Then we saw each other at the City Year alumni homecoming, and now we're just here again. So I think it's funny to see like how a lot of the members on the call just keep showing up. It shows that this is a community, which is good.
It also proves the law of attraction, by the way, right? You
Yeah.
buy a red car, you're going to see red cars everywhere. So so Jenna and Dana, right? And Addie, you all were on that City Year call, right?
Other Dana.
Oh, Dana
Yep.
Bazzelli was.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Oh, that's right, because you're NCCC.
But yes, City Year did an alumni homecoming, which I think is the second year they've done it. It was virtual. There were, I know, at least 120 people on it, and it was the best virtual event I've ever been a part of. Super interactive, and like Annie said, it was great to see people that we are now recognizing from outside of our years of service, and now we're just connected in general through the podcast. So it was really fun, and it's something that AmeriCorps itself, that would be interesting for them to do for any and all alums too, and take a few notes out of City Year's page because they did a fantastic job with it.
What made it, what were the interactive, just a few things that they did?
There was, is it like an annotation feature? So it was like, where are you calling from? So everybody clicked on the map, and then they had a timeline of which year did you serve, and you got to see like how many people, like a heat map of the people who were on the call. There was an escape room session that we were in small groups, and we got to meet new people and click on this interactive like website to learn new things that were going on with City Year, and then a reflection exercise with the perfect background music. And I enjoy reflections anyways, but this one was very moving. And so draw pictures about who you were when you served. And that was really, really unexpectedly moving for me. I just, drew a little person with all kinds of question marks, like, existential crisis, and then realized who I was and how far I've come since that service year. So it was fantastic.
Cool. I love that annotation. After I interviewed with Christy Heine, Teach for America, I jumped on a training that she was doing, and in that training, they used the annotation, and I was like, ooh. And so then I went into my staff meeting and I trained everybody on the annotation. What else? Who else has interacted, or what's going on now? Like, what are you super excited about? What are you focused on? What do you want people to know? This is your time.
I can share. This is so weird. So I contract locally for like the Colorado Conference on Volunteerism. So it's a bunch of like volunteer management professionals that come together once a year and, learn things. We're like pretty well known like in the local community, but this year was our first in-person, like fully in person since the pandemic, and people traveled in for it. So it's starting to get some traction, and which is fun. So, but I didn't even make this connection honestly until he did the podcast, and it was after the conference. But Swim Kareem
Yeah.
came from Albuquerque, which is only like 6 hours from Denver, but he came in, attended the conference, was a part, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is so cool. I love him. He has his own podcast as well. And then I saw it pop up on your LinkedIn, Nikki, and I was like, wait a minute, he's an AmeriCorps alum? How did him and I not talk about that? Like, because we spent some time together at the conference, and I was like, truly, this needs to be, like you all are saying, like on our LinkedIn pages, like somehow, like AmeriCorps needs to create like a little, where it says open to work, it should say like, you know, AmeriCorps alumni, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
just, I think there's, I don't know. So it was super, super wild. Because I was like, how did this not come up in conversation? Because his service year was a while ago. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not something like, unless you just did it,
Yeah.
that we continue to associate with. So that's been
I
pretty fun for me.
So Addie has us all getting hand tattoos. Okay. Maybe. But I was thinking more like a lapel pin might be like fun. And then Trey's saying in the
Amera,
chat,
4, one for each hand, you know?
we um Trey was saying a coin, a service coin. So how would you use that? Like you would handshake and you would like slip the coin into somebody's, I don't know. How do you use the coin? Let's see, handshake. I don't know.
There's various ways to use the coin. And basically, when you're out, if you have your coin on you, it allows for certain things to occur. If you don't have your coin to have you on it, then you probably owe the other person something. You just say it that way. So if we're out kind of drinking or we're having a good time somewhere, who's buying the meal depends on the person who doesn't have the coin.
Oh.
So just a thought there. If some of you all may have coins in other spaces, you probably know that's sometimes works that way. It depends on, there's some different rules, but just thought about it. Especially we're still seeing some new emergence of looking at national service as a whole, both civilian service as well. So looking at it like, hey, that could be a pretty cool thing. Let's see how it goes. I don't know. Get a little A on and like so the little lapel pin that blue, we have like get us a little coin with a little bit of the saying on the back, or I don't know. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Ryan Holiday and he has coins. They're like stoic coins that he
He
has.
does. He does. He does.
I'm
He
not sure
does.
what they do, but I like the magic power. And for those that have listened to me say weird things, I love esoteric stuff. So, ooh. Oh, is that one of Ryan Holiday's?
This is not Ryan's, but this is a stoic coin. This is my son and bottom coin. Do what is right, not know what is easy. And so it's good for like mindfulness as well. I use it for like when I know I need to like stay still. It's like an anchoring tool too. So absolutely. So something like this.
I love it.
Very heavy.
I have a stone that I put in my pocket to remind me to stop talking. One of those.
I get that.
Nobody wants your opinion, Nikki. Just put your hand in your pocket.
I get it.
But I was going to mention too, have you ever heard about the Masons and the apple? So I think if you slice an apple in half, it creates a 5. I feel like Addie, you would know this. Or okay, Dana knows. People know. People are shaking their head. I'm not crazy. But it like creates a 5-pointed star inside the apple. So Masons would cut an apple and put it on like their table at the pub or whatever. And so Masons would be like, I see you. Like we're brothers, you know? So I don't know where I was going with that. I'm not going to edit it because it's funny and weird.
For listeners who are totally confused, this all stemmed from this wild chat that we have going on that may or may not appear in the recording.
Well, I'll get the chat. It'll be sent to me, and I'll see what can be put on the notes and what maybe shouldn't. But I do. Trey did say, "Don't be lame. Join AmeriCorps." Like that's an amazing tagline.
See, I think it is.
Yep. Who else wants to contribute in whatever way you feels good?
I mean, you all talked about how, this has brought a lot of you together from different spaces. The thing I find fascinating, and correct me if I'm wrong, Addie, but like I started my public service volunteer journey in Milwaukee back in 2005 and have put in like maybe 100,000 hours in that city. And I feel like we didn't cross paths. I mean, unless I
we
had
didn't.
blinders on, but
I
find that so incredible that
I
we
saw
circle back
Milwaukee
here. So.
And I was like, I'm gonna add this guy. Let's see where it goes. And that was what, a year or two ago now?
Yeah. Wow. And I mean, it's a big city and has a lot of work that needs to be done. But, I'm just glad to hear there's so many people coming out of that city and there is such a strong like alumni network there. So it's things like that, and I just wish those would become more physical. I know we tried to get a bunch going back in the day, and then we'd do a beach cleanup on Lake Michigan, and then it would fizzle out, and that's the problem that people have been referencing here. I'm also in a bunch of Peace Corps alumni groups, but they are better at just harping, like show up and we'll give you, free food, and people do show up to those events. And there was like emergency stipends during COVID for displaced folks that, was very structured. And it's just like, need to do a better job at having that structure in place to kind of help alumni and support them in times of need or in careers or whatever it might be. And I guess one other thing I just want to throw out into the podcast ether is, nearing 40, I guess I'm very tired. I'm sure many of you are tired. I never thought I would be tired of direct service and volunteering and just giving myself with my body. But now it's more like, all right, I'd rather just, sit at home. And I think COVID had a lot to do with that too. So I think it's also that is finding a lot of non-physical ways that alumni and just people interested in service can kind of participate and lend their good. And it sounds like, Christina, you might be working on things like that. But, whether you have coding skills or, you want to help influence policy and you want to write, a public speech for a local committee hearing or something like that. These are all ways we can give back without having to like pick up trash or whatever it might be. And I think we could do a better job of organizing those as well as alumni. And I mean, I'm just talking here, but hopefully I help organize some of those pretty soon. But this podcast helps to organize things like that.
Yeah, the idea of the physical chapters, it just, I don't know. Some cities it works, and some cities it just doesn't. DC has a strong chapter, and then there's also like, yeah, there's so many things about that, but appreciate that reflection, Craig.
Yeah, we have just started almost a year ago, a chapter for alumni in San Antonio, which that's how I get to see Dana Bazzelli and how we got to do some service projects together. But it is hard, but there is definitely a desire for folks to connect and just share different professional opportunities. And so hoping to continue to do some of that too. Because I know I moved to San Antonio almost a year and a half ago, so I'm still newer. And so my Austin AmeriCorps alumni experience was very different. I was like, I want to meet new friends and I want them to be AmeriCorps alumni. So it's partially selfish to form the chapter, but everybody that I've gotten to meet has been great. And I think what's interesting about, I don't know, just being in different professional circles, something about someone being an AmeriCorps alum is just, you just feel it when you're around other AmeriCorps alumni. Everything's really efficient, really organized, extremely collaborative, and it's just something special. So it doesn't matter, I think, just to kind of harp on what was already said, it doesn't really matter where you end up going, but those skill sets it's just so transferable, and it's really great. And now as a 35-year-old, and it's been so long since I served, it's just like, wow, yeah, I can definitely tell you served. It's just it's great. They're transformational leaders.
Yeah. And that was Christina Flores for folks that are just listening. How about Libby? I'm going to call you out. How's your yoga classes going?
They're good. It's going pretty well. I mean, so now just because it's closer to the holidays, that there's less turnout because people are starting to get ready, but the people that do come enjoy it. So that's the important thing, I think.
And you'll get inundated in a few weeks, right? Everybody will be in the gym.
Everybody, everybody will be back and ready to go. And then they'll probably by like the end of February, early March, it'll start getting lean again. Yeah,
sadly, not sadly that I was in this industry, but I was in the fitness industry for almost 8 years. And it was so funny because January, I mean, it was packed. I had to like monitor the treadmills. I'm like, you're at 28, you should be cooling down, 30-minute minimum. Let's go, or maximum, let's go. And then by March, I was like, hello. So, well, I would love if anybody else has anything that they want to reflect or highlight that they're doing, or anything that's any updates from when you were interviewed to now, or anything that you just want to share with the group, and anybody else that's listening, and just maybe say your name and like, yeah, and then we can wrap it up.
Hi. I'm going to say real quick because I got OSHA calling me in a few minutes. I'm really excited to announce that I am engaged and we're getting married on May Day 2024 because I want there to be workers' protests every year.
Congratulations. It's an Amero wedding.
Yes. And I'm going to go call OSHA. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. See you. Bye, Addie.
Bye. Nice seeing y'all.
Congratulations to Addie. What'd she say? Mayday? I love that. That was a cool announcement. All right. Well, who else has something going on? Trey, you have something going on. I know you do. Yeah.
So, let's see. Since we chatted, the final manuscript to my book went to the publisher, which is pretty cool. It's called The Contemplative Morning. It is a book of reflection for resilience. Should be out and ready for eyes and for eyes on sometime next year, probably first quarter. I think that from what it looks like. So very excited about that. I also got engaged since the last time we chatted as well. We have not set a date. I'm only 2 months in, so that's where we are there. Other than that, those are the two big deals that happened in my life. So I'm just excited about next week not working the rest of the year. So it's
I feel that.
Yes, the 19th at about 4:00. It's a wrap. So
Congratulations on your book, and also congratulations on your engagement. I've heard that like writing a book when it's finally published and then you put it out, it's like kind of putting the baby out and being like, good luck. Is that how it feels?
yeah, I feel that way too. It's as they're coming back with like covers and things, like, okay, it's getting really close. And even thinking about how much I procrastinated, and then it just took me really about a couple of different weekends of just being alone and taking it through. And so, like, to now get it out there and birth whatever is going to happen, I'm actually I'm very much looking forward to it. So I hope people like it.
Can you say the name again, Trey? Because I'm super interested.
Sure. The Contemplative Morning. It's a 40-day reflection book. It'll take you through. So Nikki, you talked about Ryan's book. You probably read the Daily Stoic. It is my version of the Daily. It's not necessarily the Daily Stoic at all. It is basically what my meditations, things that I've thought through during my meditations over the last since 2016. So every morning I would get up, meditate, write something down, and I would send it out to people. And so that comes to almost about 2,000 those I just finished last month, November. I said I'll go ahead and shut it down because the book was coming. And so we've distilled those 2,000 messages down, picked out 40, and wanted to share it with more people in the world. So hopefully folks like it and see how my brain works at 5:00 in the morning.
Wow, that's so exciting. And yeah, that was like the same process that Ryan Holiday mentioned for um his his books. That's so cool. So the contemplative reflections.
The contemplative morning.
The contemplative morning. Okay. I love that. Noah Smock from the Baltimore Community Tool Bank and an NCCC alum has joined the call, and he's right under Trey. Well, that's where he is for me. I don't know where he's for other people. So Noah, what we did before you jumped on is everybody just kind of reflected on like why they wanted to join the podcast and their experience, and then what has come about since the interview on the AmeriCorps Connections podcast. And I don't know if it's preemptive to somewhat do a little drop of what might be happening in March. I'll leave that up to you though, because there's other people involved. But if you want to just quickly like reflect on why you want to join the podcast and your experience, that'd be awesome.
Sure. So hello, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I'm zooming and zooming and zooming from one to the other. So yeah, I'm here in Baltimore. The main reason I did it is because Nikki asked me to, and I found that it is a very good idea to do everything that Nikki thinks is a good idea. Also, I will say, so I run a grassroots organization. We're small but mighty at the same time. The Tool Bank is a national network of basically tool sharing resources in the community sector. And our marketing plan is for me to run my mouth, even though I'm an introvert. So I would take all podcasts, anything that you can edit, anything that's not live, I will do. And it's just an awesome way for us to have something to share, to get the word out to broad audiences. We literally show up every day to serve other people, and we can only do that when we reach them and they know that we exist. So that was the main motivation. I think I can drop a note about, so everybody will be on the list, but we are doing a nationwide alumni service day in March in honor of AmeriCorps Week. We've got the whole Tool Bank network involved, at least I think 5 cities signed up already. So if you are in a diverse geography, which I'm sure you are not all in Baltimore because I don't know you and I tend to know everybody in this sector, we will be looking for alumni just to sign up for a service project, because what we know so much about working in different alumni circles is there's a lot of theory about, oh, what can we do? Political voice, this and this, and that's all true. But we think it all begins with an appetite for continued service. And when we convene people who have done this and don't have a script, they do amazing things. So that's kind of the concept of having a variety of projects within the AmeriCorps Week. And Nikki's being very helpful with her network in that. But they will be physical projects to help tool banks or other community partners throughout the country.
Yeah, thank you so much, Noah. I went to Noah at a board meeting for the Tool Bank, and I'm like, I have this crazy idea. And he's like, I think we can do that. So stay tuned. And Craig, if you're back in the United States around March 2024, we'll find something that you can do where you're sitting. So if you're tired, you can always fold gloves at the Baltimore Community Tool Bank. It's just kind of something funny that whenever I go there, I'm folding gloves, and it's very low work. But yeah, we'll send things out for you all to get involved, hopefully, in your town. So go ahead, Noah.
Nikki, I have to tell you, since you're volunteering with us tomorrow, we'll be folding gloves.
No, we're not. We're selling tools.
Well, we have 500 that need to go out on MLK Day, and we have only 100 folded. So we've got our work cut out for us.
See, and
We'll be selling tools.
For the folks on the call too, like I have a slight OCD, so I'm like, I will find every match, right? And they're gonna match. They're not gonna be mismatched. They're gonna be the same color, the same type. So this is just Noah.
We'll let you sell that. We're doing a garage sale, and Nikki's helping us because we're short staffed. We'll let you do the garage sale stuff, and I'll fold gloves.
Thanks, Noah. So what we were also doing is just kind of wrapping up where people can share whatever's going on in their world if they want to promote something. I think there's some fun stuff happening in the chat. I don't know if I should read it or not, but yeah. So what else is out there? Christina, you took yourself off mute.
Trey was calling me out. So New Politics Leadership Academy, for those of y'all who don't know, we're a nonpartisan nonprofit organization that recruits national service alumni and military veterans and return Peace Corps volunteers to consider going into politics as a way to continue giving back to their community. So we have a lot of different programs available, and we have a specific program called Answering the Call that runs every fall and spring. And traditionally, we've offered it in 5 sessions, so you'll meet once a week for 2 hours. But this last year, we piloted a 1-day version of that, which has been really great. And we also have programs for folks that are really serious about running for office in the future. So, or maybe you want to staff a campaign and learn a little bit more about entry-level roles for fundraising or being a director of finance. So I'm going to drop the website here in case anybody would like to learn more. And for the listeners, it's you can look us up at www.newpoliticsacademy.org. And thanks, Trey, for being like, hey, you should talk a little bit more about what's going on over your neck of the woods.
I love that promotion. We'll make sure we have all the links in the show notes for sure. And I went through the program, and it was really good. And Trey is raising his hand saying he did as well.
I wish I did the program after I ran though.
Ah,
And I was like, I needed this. Where were y'all? So I didn't know. So when I run again, I'll probably do a little refresher when it's time.
I love it.
I'm not saying that I'm running again. I'm sorry. Oops.
Do I need to edit that? Yes, Brittany. Brittany has her hand up.
I was like, this could go on for a while. But so as we were sitting here talking, this is all of you have said like how this group has helped you make connections and all of these things, and that we're everywhere. I was just looking on like, oh, Colorado, like alumni chapter, there's got to be one in Denver. Like there is one. The chair of the chapter works with me. I did not know. I'm chatting with her on our Teams page, and I'm like, how did we not know that we're both AmeriCorps alumni?
See, I'm saying like maybe the coin, Noah, before you jumped on the call, we were trying to figure out how to like identify as AmeriCorps members like all the time. Addie Lipson, who was on the call, but she jumped off, suggested we get hand tattoos, but I don't know if we're all down for that.
They'll change the
so
logo
down.
on us.
Wait, what? Noah and then Jason?
Oh, sorry. I was saying they'll change the logo on us as soon as we get a tattoo. So
Let's not go to Logo Town.
No, I
That's
just said
Jason.
I'm so down. I dropped a note in the chat and I thought I don't use Zoom, I use Teams. And I went straight to Jenna. It was a direct message instead of so anyway, earlier on I just said I'm pro hand tat, I'm in. I
Oh,
only said it to Jenna, so I apologize.
Jenna's like, okay.
But you can sign me up. Yeah, right. Like, I don't care. Sign me up for that.
I love it. Interesting. Okay, what else? Who else has something going on? Dana, how about you? What's going on in
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Well, Dana, back of the napkin. Craig needs to go to bed. Is that what's going on here?
That's what I was gonna say, is that I gotta go to sleep. Because it is 3:12 now. But
Okay.
I just want a quick plug. If anyone wants to do end of the year tax evasion, I dropped a link in the chat. It's mwout.org. It's an organization I co-founded back in 2019 that helps folks that are justice impacted and re-entering to find fulfilling, good paying careers. Amazing organization based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Check them out. And then I also just want to thank you all and say, keep in touch, specifically if you know of any cool things that are happening in the Pacific Northwest of the United States of America, that you want someone to get involved with, either remotely or physically up there, because that's where I'll be landing. And I'm a free agent always, but I'm particularly free agent right now in terms of finding my next big thing. So I want to make it impactful and hopefully long lasting, and definitely going to go through the New Politics Academy.
Yay!
Guaranteed. Yeah.
Yay. Well, Craig, thank you so much for showing up to us for this at 2:00 in the morning from a little island in Thailand. So get some sleep and good luck with your adventures.
Thank you.
What is it?
Love you all.
Travel twerps.
Travel twerps signing off. Traveltwerps.com. Represent. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye. Dana, what's going on with Back of the Napkin?
We do if you've ever played with Legos as an adult, um, we facilitate a method called Lego Serious Play. So it's using Legos on purpose to do strategy and long-term planning and team dynamic work. And we were just, a couple of colleagues and I were like, we build logic models all the time. And in some cases, people think logic models are a 4-letter word because they're painful and annoying, and people throw big terms at them and make them feel bad about themselves when they write them. And we thought, well, what if we took Lego Serious Play and logic models and made building logic models with Legos? So we've written a 6-hour or 2-day, 3-hour session workshop where organizations can literally build your logic models. So we launched the product last week, and so we're going to workshop it in Q1 and then take it to scale. So if you are looking to really build a logic model, and when's the last time you played with Legos, or if either of those things sound exciting, and it's a really great way. We've used it. We're really big on youth participatory research. We tend to we work a lot with young people and in diverse communities or in places where there are power dynamics. And there's no big microphone, or there's no one to be, it's really hard for anyone to be really outspoken when everyone has to be focused on building Legos. And so it really does a lot for diverse methods of learning and processing, particularly if you have neurodiverse individuals in the spaces, but it does a lot for many different people from many different spaces, experiences, and lived backgrounds to come together and build something meaningful and kind of mitigate the noise. So we're pumped, and we'll see how it goes.
I'm telling you, you guys, if you have an idea and you want it to be creative, just get in touch with Dana. Just be like, I have this thing, and she'll be like, blah, 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 blah. How about this? And then what was the thing that we talked about on the podcast? It was something, shoot.
It was when we were trying to do our outputs reflection.
One fish, two fish reflections.
1 fish, 2 fish. Our team was, we planted trees for fish in northern, in Washington State during NCCC. And we always had, in NCCC, you had to do report outs or reflections for service learning, but no one really liked to do that. It wasn't everyone's favorite part. You just wanted to go back to your room and go to bed. And so we decided to do, to pretend to read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, and go fishing with fishing poles and magnets. And on the end of each fish was an output from our session together or from our time in Washington. Do people still not love it? Sure. But was it a little bit less painful? Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear about the logic Lego model. That's amazing. I think that is so cool. I think that would be amazing for boards, to do work on strategic planning or long-term visioning. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
excited.
Congratulations. I'm gonna circle back because I want to know how that goes. I want to see pictures. Who else? What else? Questions, comments, fun stuff.
I guess I have a plug. So I have started a business where I'm helping working professionals go back to graduate school. So whether they're deciding or actively applying, and it really connects to AmeriCorps because of the education award and all of the universities who offer different educational benefits. So something that I'm focusing on in 2024 is connecting with organizations that work with young professionals to provide workshops or whatever it is they may need to help them do the actual application process, because it's great to have money on either end, but if somebody is completely overwhelmed or it's just too daunting, or if there's something that they have self-limiting beliefs when they really shouldn't, and they just need to get over that hump so that way they can get through the actual application process, I am here to help, because Lord knows I had every single one of those through several application processes, and I want to make it easier for other people than I had it. So if you are a part of a young professionals group or know of one, please connect with me. And my website is drjenapugh.com, JENAPUGH.
And she only gets one N because she's not 5 foot.
Right.
And if you listen to her interview, you'll understand what I'm referring to.
I was so slap happy by the end of it. It was like 9:30 at night, and it had been a
It
long toddler day.
It had been a long, that was a late interview. So thank you for that. Thank you for showing up. And I subscribe to Jenna's newsletter because I have a college student that's looking to move on and into graduate school. So I'm I'm just forwarding them to my daughter Tony. I'm like, take a look at this, you know. So yeah, big fan of Jenna. And Jenna and I did a free webinar where she walked through her two different programs, and we had several AmeriCorps alum that jumped on, and I have it recorded so I can put those links. I think I can put them in the show notes if anybody wants to take a look at that. All right. Anybody else want to share anything? Any last words? Anything at all?
Just want to thank you again so much, Nikki, for all of the time and effort and energy and all of the minute technical things on the back end that you are doing to make this happen for all of us and for all AmeriCorps alumni, the current organization, all of the future AmeriCorps members who have this sent to them. You're doing a major, major service just to get thank yous. Nobody's handing you a check for this. And so we appreciate all that you're doing to keep AmeriCorps going.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. It really is a labor of love. I'm enjoying myself so much. For 2024, Dana in the chat said, "What's the plan for the pod?" See, she's even creative when she asks questions. Yeah, I'm going to continue going. I want to continue to put one podcast out a week. I heard a statistic, and it made me kind of that self-limiting belief. I was like, holy shit, I'm doing something. So apparently, 94% of people or whoever start podcasts, 4% of them don't get, or 96% of them don't get past episode 3. And out of those people that get past episode 3, 94 or 93% of those folks don't get past episode 20. And the AmeriCorps podcast is at 32 episodes. So technically the AmeriCorps Connections podcast is like in the top 2% of all podcasts. So, I mean, I said at the beginning of this call, like, we have 54 followers on YouTube. So, you know, but we do have over 1,000 downloads on the podcast side of it, and people are going back to episodes 30, 60, 90 days out. You know, I'm seeing that they're going back and pulling up people's podcasts and listening to them again. So I'm just excited. I have a few things. Definitely want to do the National Day of Service during the AmeriCorps Week through the Tool Bank Network. Some other things that I might have to circle back with Trey about publishing some things. And yeah, just keeping it going. There's a couple people, there's an organization that's interested in doing some back-end support, Jenna, that you mentioned, that I love what they asked me a question and said, what are the things you like to do on the podcast? And I was like, the thing I don't like to do are show notes. Like, something's always missing. I always have a bad link. I hate writing. AI only helps me so much, you know? So, but yeah, my goal is to continue going, and I think I just want to continue as long as I can. So I'm having a great time. All right. Last words, anybody, anything exciting? Jason, are they going to bring back bus stops again? I don't think we talked about that like during the recording.
Maybe we didn't. Oh yeah, we're doing all sorts of stuff. New bus stops, new signs. Go ride the bus, everyone. That's my pitch. Ride the bus.
I love it.
Support public transit, even if it's hard, because sometimes it is.
Ride the bus, everybody. Join AmeriCorps. Don't be lame. And with
Bingo.
that,
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. And if you're if you're AmeriCorps alum, you're badass. So we're gonna add that to the pledge. Thank you all for sharing your time. We actually did go almost an hour and a half with this podcast, or this interview, or this wrap up of my inaugural guests. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for trusting me with your time and your stories. And as always, please stay connected. And thank you all who are still listening and continue to share and follow the podcast. I'm looking for folks to be interviewing in 2024. So all you on this call, if you know people, send them my way. And anybody that's listening, reach out to me. Best way to reach out to me is Nikki Fiacco on LinkedIn. All righty. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.